right, I got 7 o'clock. We'll call this meeting to order. If you'd stand for the invocation, please remain standing for the pledge. Pastor Dumas, since you're here, would you like to pray for us?
Most gracious and awesome God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this moment called now. God, we ask you, God, to just continue to lead us, guide us, direct us, protect us. We invite you into this council session. Now, God, we ask you just continue to bless all of us. Bless our city, our town, our state, even our country and our world. It's your dear son, Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the September 7th regular meeting. They were handed out in your packet, so you should have them. I have a motion to approve.
So order.
Second.
Second.
Any additions, corrections? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse?
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker?
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves?
Yes.
Councilmember Head?
Yes.
All right. Next item is the adoption of the agenda. And we have anything we need to add to the agenda?
Mayor, no, not at this point. I had a proposed revision, but I'm not ready for that revision.
All right. So do I hear a motion to the agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Second.
Motion is second. Any objection, hearing anything? Call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse?
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker?
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves?
Yes.
Councilmember Head?
Yes.
All right. Next is public hearing rezoning request of Stonewell Worship Center. Pastor Coleman Dumas has requested that the property located at 204 Park Lane, which is 5.706 acres, be rezoned from R1 to R2 in order to add a child care program. So we'll open that public meeting now. Does anyone here like to make any comments on that?
I have a question for Mr. Dumas and just for council's edification. As you know, we've been going through the process of having our entire zoning ordinance redrafted. You should have attached a copy with your packet. A brief from our zoning consultant in the proposed zoning. So I'm going to compare current zoning to future as drafted, and a lot of the details are contained in that brief. But currently, for what the church is wanting to do, R2 is the appropriate zone. In the new zoning ordinance, R2 is going to be more relegated to a lot less density for single-family detached. So the intended use of this being requested as presented in the new zoning ordinance would either be professional, institutional, or commercial neighborhood, which is a new zoning classification. So my question for Mr. Dumas is, you've made the appropriate request based on the current zoning, which would be R2, and I think that there were conditions recommended by the zoning commission. So my question to you would be, if the council so chooses to amend the zoning ordinance, would there be any issue once the new zoning ordinance was adopted via public hearing and all that, if the property was rezoned to a commercial neighborhood type of zoning with the same restriction? It would give you the same intended use that you're requesting, but semantics, it would technically be a different zone. Does that make sense? It wouldn't be R2. Still do the church, still do the daycare, but that zoning may change via formal ordinance once we bring to council the rewrite of the zoning ordinance.
I wouldn't have a problem with that. As long as I'll be, once we know all the ramifications of everything, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
That's all I got.
Russell, if we made a motion, would we need to include that in there?
I don't think so. I just wanted to ask the question. I think you deal with the ordinance as it's drafted, and the recommendation for rezone is appropriate based on the current ordinance. So all the appropriate notices have been ran, property's been posted, it's followed the proper protocol. And the recommendation from the zoning commission is attached with your packet that the property known as 204 Park Lane, which is consisted of 5.706 acres, be rezoned from R1 to R2 condition. And that for council's consideration, that the recommendation of the commission or the condition is that the only expanded use for the property be for the intended use as specified by the church, and that be for a child care program or daycare facility allowed at the church.
Offer motion that it be rezoned.
Second.
Well, I think first we gotta come out of the
Public hearing.
public hearing part. If there's anyone here else needs, if there's no one here else to speak on that, have a motion to come out of public hearing.
I make that motion come out.
Second.
Second.
All right. Any comment? Call for a vote, come out of,
Councilmember Greathouse.
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves.
Yes.
Councilmember Head.
Yes.
now we'd be to the point where we to make a motion to,
Offer motion that the property be rezoned.
I'll say.
a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mayor, just clarification to accept the recommendation of the zoning commission with the condition attached, because I believe the original request was for a R2 zone, and the recommendation from the zoning commission included the condition.
So you're making your motion for that
Okay, offer motion that be rezoned with the following condition.
conditional, okay. And you're fine with that.
Second,
So clarifying that, call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse.
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves.
Yes.
Councilmember Head.
Yes.
Next item is the city attorney's report.
Nothing at this time.
Next item, city clerk's report.
Nothing at this time.
Anything from the city engineer?
Not at this time, Mayor.
We'll move to the city manager's report.
Mayor, first item, I'm going to introduce Mr. Taylor Smith. I think he's got some information for y'all.
Hey council, how you guys doing today?
Good.
Want to let you know about our Georgia City Week plans we have upcoming. So that's going to be October 3rd through October 9th. I believe you have my Georgia Cities Week events scheduled. So I've got a couple of different things planned that week. A lot of it is around youth engagement in the community. So we always do a kids art contest with the elementary school and primary school. This year we are dedicating a youth art wall on the side of Baby Lanes, our children's consignment store in downtown Thomaston. We will have I don't like using the word winner, but we will have a drawing from each grade K through 5, and we're working with Fonderosa Flint Road Studio to paint those drawings on the side of Baby Lanes. And every year annually we're going to add drawings to that wall and dedicate a wall of art for our youth in the community. We always do the If I Were Mayor essay contest. This year I'm partnering with Savvy Graphics, and I have potentially another partner to print out banners. So essentially we're going to take clips from their essays. If I were mayor, I would do this. I love Thomaston because of this. And we're going to print those out on 4x4 banners. We're going to hang those in downtown. Again, as a way to show our youth, show our citizens that our youth care and that they have opportunity and they have a vision for this community. Painting the fire hydrants. So we are painting 20 fire hydrants in downtown Thomaston. I've been receiving applications, got some really cool ones. Think about, we have one dedicated to the military, we have one dedicated to the peach history of the community, one's gonna be like a gumball machine, you know. Some really just cool way for us not to go and spend $20,000 on a mural, but a way to incorporate art into downtown Thomaston. We're gonna be doing downtown history tours on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The archives, Jameson Graham is going to be leading those. So we're going to do a stop at the St. Michael's Church right here that was built in 1889. We'll do a little inside tour of that, hear some history from their chaplain, and then we will do a stop at the Ritz and do a tour of the Ritz. That's the same week as the homecoming parade, and Upson Lee's homecoming. We're going to be doing a Lakeside Park ribbon cutting at 11 a.m. on October the 8th. We're super excited about having that open. On October the 9th at Lakeside, we're going to be having a kids fishing derby. Fall Line Bait and Tackle is sponsoring that, and we're going to offer that up. I think Rotary is going to volunteer, the Lions Club is going to volunteer, you know, have some people out there helping the kids that don't have parents at hand to help them fish, and, you know, just use it as a community asset, and really just, we want our youth and our children involved, and this is my goal moving forward. Whenever we have Georgia Cities Week, I want to do it around our youth and around our youth engagement in the community. The only other thing I wanted to touch on base on was our downtown Thomaston Entertainment District. So as you know, with our new alcohol ordinance, we are establishing an entertainment district in downtown Thomaston. So I'm in the process now of working with Crown Technology to get some pavement markers. You know, I don't want to drive around town and see these signs just on every street corner. So I'm trying to do a cool little unique pavement marker because it's for pedestrians, right? So where you'll be walking, you'll enter and you'll see downtown Thomaston Entertainment District. So I'm working with Crown, our local industry, who does that. And then we're going to be ordering cups. So with the entertainment district, you will have a cup. It will have the map on the back. It will have a date, it will have the ordinance number, it will have the time of valid use. If your cup doesn't have that date on it, guess what? You're in violation of the alcohol ordinance. It's only valid for that day. We want to allow for growth in Thomaston. We want to be strategic about how we grow Thomaston, and this is a way for us to regulate that use. So, you know, we're going to allow open container, but it's going to be with cups that we give the business owners. So I just want to come and talk to you about that, and look forward to hearing about our master plan for WLS Studios.
Have we looked at on the cups, working with Dark maybe out there?
Yeah.
Maybe they can help because they're a local industry as well.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Career recommendation.
All right.
Mayor, the next item for council's discussion and or question, we have representatives from WLA Studios here with us tonight, Mr. Dean and Mr. Williamson. We're going to turn it over to you, and they're here to present the City of Thomaston Downtown Master Plan.
Good evening, you all. Thanks for having me. I'm going to try to advance some slides. I think we have a quick little presentation that we're going to run through very briefly because I know you've got a long meeting. But really the purpose of tonight was to welcome questions both tonight and also to offer you all the opportunity that if after this evening or after you get an opportunity to read the master plan, if you have any questions, just get in touch with us directly or through Russell or Taylor. We're happy to field questions. We've been working on this project the last couple of months. We feel pretty emotionally invested in it and hope that some of the suggestions that we presented in the master plan come to fruition. We think it's a wonderful town and we've spent a good bit of time here. WLA Studio is the lead firm on this project. About 6 or 7 of our staff members worked on this project, both in the inventory analysis and also coming up with the strategic plan. Matt was kind of the leader of the project and was probably engaged with it as much as anybody in the firm. And then we also engaged a firm out of Philadelphia and Charleston, South Carolina, Urban Partners, who are a economic redevelopment market analysis team. And so they were very instrumental in coming up with this. And Matt, if you just chime in whenever you want, otherwise I'm just going to keep rolling.
Doing great.
Okay, so we structured this project, you know, working with Russell and Doug in order to create a package that could be easily moved into a rural zone designation grant application. And so we had a series of milestones in order to get this to fruition in order to meet certain deadlines that were set by DCA. And so that's what we were able to do. And Matt, who worked with DCA for many years, coordinated with them in order to create what we thought was the strongest package for the city of Thomaston. Do you want to describe what you think the rural zone application designation provides for the town?
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, I've worked for DCI. I started working there as a graduate student and then worked for there 2 more years after that, so I have a little bit of experience with the program. I think it's really beneficial. I think y'all are in a really good place to get it, because we went back and forth and also looked at other master plans of cities who have obtained that designation, so I feel really good about it. I think y'all should. Hopefully it'll be really beneficial for y'all.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with it, there's a lot of tax benefits and incentives both for property owners and business owners who want to take a chance at opening a business in the downtown area, and this provides them with some economic incentives to do so. There are requirements which you all meet, but our application had to really kind of dovetail to what they were looking for. We had to come in and inventory. First, we had to predict what we felt like their zone was going to be, and almost invariably it gets shrunk. But we focused on where there's a high concentration of historic buildings that can be rehabilitated into income-producing properties. And so that was the study area shown on the map behind me or in front of you all.
And I think that likely will be reduced to a degree. I think some of the larger undeveloped parcels will probably be taken out of that. DCA has a big emphasis on downtown, which is good. I mean, that's where you want your growth and your revitalization to be. But I think you could probably expect for the rural zone to be shrunk slightly.
So the master plan is structured in 3 parts: research, visioning, and action. And so the research, like I said, looks at the existing conditions, identifies vacant buildings or underutilized buildings, and DCA forces upon us a category of buildings called blighted buildings. And though we're not really comfortable with that term, that's something that they wanted to see in there. So, you know, based on whether the building was in poor condition or boarded up or vacant, you'll see in the master plan buildings being called it blighted. That's a category that DCA likes to see. And then, I don't want to speak, there's a very detailed and heavy market analysis in there, and I'm not going to go into all the great detail, but basically what we did with Urban Partners is we looked at the downtown area, the city, the county, and then a 20-mile radius around, and looked at which sectors of the local economy were being well served by downtown Thomaston, and then where there were opportunities for growth. One of the things that we saw was, based upon where money was being spent, is that there were a few kind of initial areas that we felt like the downtown could focus on for economic growth, and those were full-service restaurants, new drinking establishments, some non-alcoholic beverage bars, probably 4 or 6 home furnishing businesses, more women's apparel stores, a hobby and game store, and then some specialty food stores or farmers markets were not just things that we wanted, but the market analysis of this 20-mile radius showed us that there were gaps in the services being provided. And again, in the master plan, you'll actually see how much potential revenue is being lost by not having those services provided in downtown.
Yeah, I think y'all will find the market analysis extremely useful. Those of you who know the history of Thomaston know that it's been an economic hub in the past, and what I think the market analysis showed us is that it still could be today, and in fact is now, but there's still a large gap that can be filled to really take advantage of that.
So using our information on existing conditions and then what the market analysis showed, we then created what we felt like was an appropriate and actionable strategic plan looking forward over the next 3, 5, 10, 15 years. And then provided, because it was something that the folks that we met down here were very keen to have, which is kind of visual representation of what these opportunities are. So in the master plan, there are a lot of renderings of building facades being renovated, or renderings of underutilized parcels that could be recreated into more beneficial to the entire local community and economy. Let's move on. So, for example, the reuse of buildings, hearing that there was a potential relocation of the fire station, and then looking at the market analysis and seeing the gap in full-service restaurants, and just being able to provide you all with a graphic that shows, well, this is a potential reuse of a building that's in close proximity in downtown, will help bring more people to town. Do you want to talk anything about the...
Yeah, and the rural zone will provide incentives for business owner to do that. That's a good part about that. And DCA, when they look at this master plan and they score it, they really love to see these renderings like this. So I think we're good there.
So a person that comes in and wants to renovate this building can get up to 30% of their rehabilitation costs recouped as a tax credit, not to exceed $150,000. So, I mean, that's a real good program that will incentivize the reuse of existing buildings rather than locating perhaps outside of downtown. One of the other gaps, and again, this is not, astrophysics. You know that having more people living within walking distance of the restaurants downtown will help generate more foot traffic and create a more livable downtown community. And so one of the strategies that's being employed, in most small towns is how to get more upper level apartments. And so we identified not only what we felt like was the square footage of need, but also what was the available space and existing upper stories, and that's what this graphic illustrates here. Another part of making the downtown more not only livable, but more attractive to outside visitors is looking at what type of streetscape improvements might make it a more walkable city, a more attractive city. I mean, we think it is a very attractive city, but you all know crossing the streets that there are some places where there's some challenges, so we provide a very set of detailed suggestions on places where accessibility could be improved or pedestrian safety can be improved. We also provided graphics that showed a strategy of extending the street lighting and the street tree planting area into the adjacent blocks in order to help knit those blocks that are off the square kind of into the commercial zone downtown. Why don't you take a second?
Yeah, I think while there's not a lot of what we used to call pedestrian space downtown or green space, what you do have is a really nice backup building space that isn't currently set up to host an event or anything like that, but it definitely has potential as being a pedestrian space, and I think that would be beneficial for businesses. It would definitely entice business owners to come downtown. They know they have the additional outdoor space. I mean, if we look at what happened last year, people were clamoring for outdoor space for their restaurants. So I think utilizing those spaces, and we have another rendering, I think this is on the south, but next to the public parking, and there's one in the master plan, one on the north too. Long term, I think it could be a really cool space. Utilizing those alleys as well, just for more connectivity.
And there's financing programs available to help implement these types of programs, but having a vision or having a plan like we provided you sets you up well for making those applications in the future. And then, again, we're not going to reread the whole master plan, but we also looked at where are the opportunities to help knit together the neighborhoods and the businesses that might be outside of the rural zone in order to, again, kind of foster those connections. So with the hospital being kind of right on the outside of downtown, that's going to be a major economic engine for this community for the foreseeable future. How can we facilitate the connections between those areas and the neighborhoods around downtown? And so identifying places for sidewalk improvements or bike routes, those are all also included in the plan. And then we also looked at either vacant parcels or parcels that were currently not being used and trying to visualize what the opportunities were there. So this is one where we looked at more of a mixed-use development. This is over on the northeast side of downtown, where we saw, because of its scale and its current conditions, a major opportunity for development.
Yeah, if you go to that next slide, I mean, to me, this is a site that's really exciting to me. I think you have potential for a rail trail program. You have a nice historic building stock that can be, repurposed. It's not on the main highway. It experiences less traffic. I think that's an area that's probably prime for future development.
And there's renderings of conceptual redevelopment opportunities in the master plan. I mentioned the cycling and greenways. Again, we did the same thing. We looked at public park spaces and recreational facilities around town, and where are the logical connection points, again, in order to create a kind of more integrated community through multimodal transportation. So the master plan's big. There's a lot of information in it. We didn't cover but about 1% of it this evening, but again, we're here to, one, answer any questions, two, to offer you all the opportunity to always get in touch with us. We're happy to field questions, and especially with market analysis, it's pretty dense, but I'm sure Russell can answer most of those questions.
One thing I want to say, and this has been something that's been coming, I want to say that I read this yesterday, and Russell and I talked a little bit, Taylor and I had talked a good bit. I really think y'all did an incredible job on this. Not only, you know, a lot of times you get a document and it will sort of be a visioning document, and sometimes it seems hard to see, well, where do we go from here? It's got a lot of good ideas in it, but what this has that I think is really neat is the renderings of what this space could look like and those thoughts. And I mentioned to Taylor today is I think that we are at a real place in the time of our community where a lot of the pieces of a puzzle are being put together. And I think this master plan, I think the fact that we've done the zoning ordinances and alcohol ordinances, and I think Taylor coming into this job here with all the passion and energy and excitement he's got, sort of the combining of the DDA and Main Street, I really think this is one of the most exciting things, that just the possibility with the rural zone designation and the incenting the investment of people coming in. A lot of times you have a lot of good ideas and there's not, you know, but in the end it takes money to do stuff. And with these tax credits and the visioning that you did and kind of looking out, and not just the buildings, but also the enhancing the environment with the walkability, because there really are some issues other than just the building. And I really think, I just have this feeling that the pieces of the puzzle are coming together, and 5 years from now, we're going to look back and say, wow, what's been accomplished. But it takes that money and these incentives, and this document y'all did, I think you, when you identified that over that 20-mile period, there is a, $136 million gap, and that I just think it identifies the reason that we can do more here. We've got a pretty town, and here's so much we can do. And now you've got the economic component of it, and we've got Taylor just working it. I mean, he is really putting a lot of effort. Y'all came up with a great document, and the Urban Partners puts all that data together to say, this isn't just a thought of what it is, here's the numbers.
Right.
And so I think you did an incredible job with it and wrote a great document that'll be a working document that we can say, okay, what's our first choice, what's our second choice? And I pray we'll get that rural designation, zone designation. I'm glad to hear you say you've worked with that before and you feel confident that we're a good candidate for it.
You'll never see my face in Thompson again if you don't.
But thank you, it was really well done, well put together.
Well, thank you, Doug. I would say two things. One of the reasons I think it turned out so good was the collaboration with local people like yourself and Russell, who had really good instructions to us at the beginning about what you felt like you needed. You didn't need a document that's just going to sit on the shelf. And then the second thing was the excitement and the information that we got from the business owners. Like you said, I mean, it's going to take money to implement some of these things. And so the interviews that we had with local business owners, showed us that there was a lot of positive movement in this town. But I also think that they respond very positively to those hard numbers. And when the property owners or the future developers or potential developers see this document, there's going to be language in there that they recognize and respond to.
Yeah. You know, when I say that the pieces of the puzzle kind of come together, I'm really thankful that Heart and Soul movement got done, because that provided a lot of good information. Let me ask you, I think since you were kind of praising that location over there at the Alliance Warehouse, I think that when you said earlier that it might be shrunk a little bit, I hope that area.
No, it would. That would be one that stayed.
It would
Yeah.
stay, yeah. They were, when I was talking to them, they were mostly, the main one they mentioned was the large undeveloped parcel to the northwest.
I got you.
They like those buildings. I mean, the
They're a downtown
repurposability,
oriented.
if you will,
Yeah.
of some of
We
those
thought it was a
buildings.
great opportunity to do a downtown park and get a major green space, and that's why we included it, and we stuck with it even though they suggested that we pull it out. We were like, we still think it's a great place for it to have a downtown city park, FYI.
From a developmental standpoint, to be attractive and up to date for marketing purposes, how often do you recommend updating the market analysis piece? Like how long are the numbers good for?
I felt like their numbers were from like 17 to 21, so that's 4 years. I can ask Jim that question: how quickly do the numbers change, and will the numbers, because of the last 2 years, be aberrations, or is that the type of information that you need to know because it's showing a different trend? So let me ask Jim that question, and I'll get it back to you.
I guess it would encompass some of the activity during the pandemic, so it kind of is only up from here, so to speak. I mean, in the sense of, if these are the tight gaps that we're seeing in a pandemic or coming out of a pandemic, I think it only would intensify some of these numbers to
I think so.
really
We've had this discussions with Jim, because some of the things that I thought there were going to be real major changes, like for example, large office buildings, and I said, that's a dead industry. He was like, don't be so sure. He says people like going to the office. Don't be sure that people aren't going to, continue doing that. It's just going to take a little while to get back there. But Jim, he's thought about this a lot more than I have.
Sure.
I'm just thinking about, Taylor, as we turn him loose to go sell, and he's meeting with developers, and they look at it and say, man, this data is 5 years old. So, assumedly, at some point, there's a refresh. I'm just curious.
I mean, and I approach Matt about that, because a lot of this data, a lot of the census data that was used is from 2017, 18, 19, and our most recent census data showed we had a population increase of about 1,100 people. In April 2020, we're at 9,800. Russell and I talked, we have 8,200 registered voters in the city limits. Realistically, we think we have between 10 and 11,000 residents in the city at this time. We're constantly pulling new building permits and building new houses. Growth is coming. And so I agree, with Russell. I think the numbers are just going to continue to go up, and, understanding when we need to have another market analysis to show our current data as the population increases.
Russell, one thing we had talked about too, we've had this conversation about the DDA and the Main Street, and prior to this, in years past, the DDA has been really focused on events that happen, and whether they be downtown events and other events in town, and that's still a part of what we do. But we're going to focus on 3 or 4 events maybe. But the real focus now, particularly with the work that WLA has done with Urban Partners, and the fact that Taylor is in this job and just got the passion and the energy, now it's going to turn to more of really an economic development tool that, again, I really feel like in 5 years we're going to be able to look back and we're going to see what this town could be and become a town to where people Taylor's age are going to say, that's where I want to go back and live.
And this is a lot of extremely useful data, speaking of economic development for our IDA and Kyle and her staff and how.
I can attest, I have several projects that I've been working on that I've been using this master plan as a building point, and we have opportunities coming quickly even some of the renderings they proposed, you know, I'm hoping that we get the rural zone, we'll know about the rural zone designation the second week of October. My goal, those incentives go live January, I want projects, I want at least 2 or 3 projects between October and December, so come January 1st, we're hitting the ground running. You know, we have these tax credits for 5 years. I want to take full advantage of these tax credits and utilize them to their full potential to, you know, enhance the quality of life in this community.
As you know, Kyle's always meeting with the retail folks of the retail economic developers, and some of this data, we talking about the number of square feet that we could need, and we have here that can be repurposed. I mean, it just kind of goes, glove in hand on some of this of what she's doing. So I think it's vital that we share. I'm sure you have. We've already shared this, and
well, I'd like to see it on our
that was
website.
my next point.
The IDA's website, and I'm sure the
Facebook.
county would even put it on there.
I will say, we are working on, I spoke with IT, we are going to work on establishing a City of Thomaston Economic Development webpage where we can have our own, market analysis, we can have that on site, have our master plan, have our, if we get information from ECG as far as properties that are for sale, any kind of market material, I want to be able to access that online at one place, for the City of Thomaston.
I'm excited for the public
I
to
am.
see some of
It's-
this. I think they're going to be really excited.
It's one thing to talk about it, but I'm a visual person. I think a lot of people are. You can see it, and if you really get in your tunnel vision of your life. And
We've been saying it's coming, it's coming, it's coming.
I really, and one thing I want to thank Taylor and really appreciate work that Taylor's already done. Some of this visioning and some of this rendering and stuff, and talking to Taylor says, I've already talked to people about it. I mean, he's already making contacts with people about these places that, what could this be like? And he's already, and Taylor, I appreciate that because you've already put a lot of work into it.
That's my job.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll see you again soon, and don't hesitate to call us. All right.
Yeah. Good
Have a
job.
safe trip.
Thank you.
Mayor, the next item for council's consideration, item number 3, is discussion and authorization to set the rental rate for a vacant 3-bedroom property, community development properties. We had a vacancy that we discussed at previous council meetings, and that rate was set based on the HUD recommended rates at the 80% of fair market value. So for consideration tonight, I've been told we do have another vacancy this time. It is a 3-bedroom unit. So same question to council, if we want to deviate from the current rent structure and tie it to the HUD publicized rate, or if you want to take an alternate means.
The previous one that we did, the 2-bedroom, it rented immediately. I mean,
Said what?
It rented immediately. I mean, it at that
At
new
the
at the
established
80%
price.
at the 80% rate. It, so I don't see why you would not want to do this one as the same.
I have spoken to Mr. Thompson. I have some questions, and I have shared some of those with him as it relates to HUD. And the rent that's paid for community development apartments and rent that's paid under community development. I have some questions about some of that. And for that reason, I'm not in favor of this amount that's here. That's me speaking, and I will get back with Mr. Thompson and talk and get an answer as to what it is I'm talking about and why it is as it is.
You can either table it,
So,
keep it vacant
Oh, there's a lot of work to be done there, so it will be vacant for a while. Yes, it will be.
Table that to the next meeting and start improving the property that's needed and kind of start looking at that.
next item for, do we formally table?
Formally table it.
Make a motion to
That'll be a
table it.
motion to table to the next meeting.
Make a motion to table it.
Got a motion, I hear a second.
I'll second.
Motion is second, any discussion? Call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse.
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves.
Yes.
Councilmember Head.
Next item for council's consideration and discussion of animals within the city limits, particularly horses, cows, pigs, chickens. We've had the conversation before. One of the council members received an email, I think, in reference to some potential development where there may be, some livestock or equestrian activity, and question the city's ordinance, due to tight proximity in R1 districts and other districts. Is it time to revisit the city's animal ordinance? You have a copy attached headed H4 with your packet, and that is the current rules and regulations with regards to the animals that we just mentioned.
I've seen chickens and turkeys in my yard recently.
Man. Yeah, we
They wasn't
have,
cooked. They just walking around.
the reason it came about was there was some concern about a piece of property and that was gonna potentially contain horses, and and Russ will jump in on the language of the ordinance, or Deanne, or both. But that number for a horse scales up in a particular zoning as the acreage increases.
Correct.
So you could potentially, if you hadn't, you could have, it, like I said, it scales up with no cap. I don't believe there's a cap on it. So it's in there. I won't read it to you, but you can read it. I think it's section 14-2. You can kind of see it scales up. So there was some concern from some constituents about if a piece of property is X amount of acres, they can have, theoretically, unlimited amount of horses within pretty close confines, and there was worry about the smell and the activity and everything else. So, in essence of that conversation, it got me thinking, and it's something that we may need to think about. I know we've got a limit on dogs and cats. I think it's 3, Russell, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And so I wonder if it's time for us to, I haven't really thought about horses, or for that matter, pigs or turkeys or cows and and chickens in the city limits. Is it something that we need to talk about and consider? So,
I had several calls on some chickens in a resident.
I did too. Those chickens in an area.
I think at a bare minimum, appropriate setbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you meet the 1 per 2 acres, I mean, if you require a far enough setback from property line to property line, that may be a more.
yeah.
I think that was probably the setback.
Could you and Deanne maybe, I know as we're going through some of the zoning that y'all are working on, y'all think you can work on something to bring back at some point in the near future to address some of these concerns?
Do y'all want limitations, recommendations, or setbacks? Just kind of our best shot.
Kind of leave it up. I mean, if
'Cause
y'all work with it.
I'm out on pigs and cows. I'm putting 0.
I mean, I don't think we need to, because you can't control those chickens unless they're in a coop. But I mean, they're going to be all in, your yard and your neighbor's yard,
That's the problem I had, yeah.
looking for worms or whatever they do. And I don't mind chickens, but you can't, it's hard to contain them. Grazing in your neighbor's yard.
We can take a shot at it. Next, two items for council's consideration or redos. There was a procedural recommendation issued from the last council meeting. I think I couched staff's recommendation up in a confusing manner, which may or may not have been proper procedure for the effective vote. So just for clarification and to make sure we've got it right, this was the authorization for both the police department's specialized unit for 4 officers and for 2 additional code enforcement officers. If council wishes to vote on them separately, they can, or in conjunction, items 5 and 6. So the proper recommendation would be to authorize and appropriate $225,000 for the purpose of a crime suppression unit for the Thomaston Police Department, and the authorization to appropriate $90,000 to hire 2 additional code enforcement staff members.
I will make that motion to
Do both of them.
both of those at one time.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on these?
Russell, let me ask you, what's the latest status of John?
Without violating too much confidential, he's in good spirits. We have found some work for him to do. We have him in his commercial certification class through the ICC, so he's been able to work on that. Mobility's good, just day-to-day follow-ups, not till early October, mid-October.
October 3rd, I think.
October 3rd.
And one thing I would say about code enforcement is when you look at the master plan we've just got, you look at the plans we got, you look at the ideas about the walkability issues downtown, and just the way we want our community to look, I think John and Bobby have been running as hard as they could already trying to keep up. And I just think this is something that we need to support those things that we're doing.
Next item.
Vote.
Sorry.
Call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse.
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves.
Yes, but I have some concern. I have no problems with this crime suppression unit. Based on the information we looked at last meeting, I feel, we need to have that. But there are issues that we have as it relates to a police standpoint, other than these issues that have gone on in my district. And I know maybe a month ago, we voted to hire 3 part-time officers? 3 or 4 well, I don't know if they were part-time officers.
So creating a pool of some sort.
Right, and I don't know that they've all come on yet. I think I was told 2 have.
3.
Oh, all 3 are on. So I would like to suggest that I would hope these issues that I have been dealing with in my area, they can be addressed. I mean, if we're hiring people and hiring more people, so we need to see some results. And I would love to see some results in my district. And you are aware, Mr. Thompson, the chief is aware of what I'm talking about. So I would love to see some results with some of that. Yes.
And Councilmember Head.
Yes.
Next item for council's consideration is an appointment to the Downtown Development Authority. I believe Mr. Jerry Adams, is the chair, has resigned. He's not going to be able to continue in his spot. So if there are any considerations or nominations for appointment to the Downtown Development Authority.
Excuse me, did you say someone resigned?
Jerry Adams.
I would like to make a recommendation. Catherine Beatty's a local attorney. She's been in this community since the early 90s. She's probably got 27, 28 years as an attorney. She's a business owner and a property owner that's always been interested in the downtown area and what's being done. I think it'd be good. I think she would be a really good addition to the DDA. She also, obviously, with her legal background, she would have a bit of expertise in that area to bring to meetings and things like that. So I really think she'd be a good addition to the DDA.
I second Doug's request.
Heard a motion and a second. Hearing further discussion. Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse.
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves.
Yes.
Councilmember Head.
Yeah.
Next item for council's consideration is we have a vacancy on the Historic Preservation Commission. Who dropped off?
Mr. Chair, he was on the
Both, I'm sorry. So if we have any nominations, considerations for appointment at this time.
I've got one here. I think they're actually maybe another, other positions.
So there are 2 more open positions on HPC. So I will tell council, if you have someone that would like to get involved and wants to be a part of the HPC process, we're going to be an active working group. They are heavily involved with our facade grant. So if you have anyone that wants to get involved, please, have them get in contact with me. And, I want people that want to be involved.
Yeah, I'd like to make a recommendation here too. Y'all, a lot of y'all may know Luke Haney. Luke's the lifestyle editor and digital media coordinator for Upson Beacon. Luke's got a lot of skills, but he has a real passion for Thomaston. He has a real passion for historic structures. And so he's got a real interest and background there too. He really has taken on a number of roles while he's been at Upson Beacon, including a reporter, editor, photographer, does a lot of things. He lays out the paper. But in addition to his job, he owns and operates his own photography and freelance writing business. And he's the real neat thing that ties him in here too also is he's was a volunteer with Community Heart and Soul since 2018. And he's a member of the Thomaston Upson Community Heart and Soul Board. In addition to that, y'all, just his love and interest in history, he's written several in-depth articles about historic properties that figured in the community, including the Upson County Courthouse, the Weaver Dallas House and Family, and McDaniel Atwater Daniel House, and Andrews Chapel. So here's somebody that's got a background in it, a real interest and passion for it, and I think Luke would be great on that committee.
I second Doug's recommendation.
Let me ask a question before we move forward. When did we find out that these people was resigning from the board?
So Mr. Jerry emailed me earlier this week.
Okay.
It just happened. The 2 vacant positions that were already on the board have been there since I've taken over.
Been on there for months.
It's
Some of the ones that we kept, end of the thing, approach. Anybody want to put somebody on there? No. Maybe we'll have somebody by next month.
Yeah.
So I think we finally just started taking it off because nobody was making nominations.
So if Luke goes on, we got 2.
2 more.
So we'll have 2 more open positions on the Historic Preservation Commission board, yes. And I will say again, that is going to be an active board moving forward. We will have monthly meetings to address certain issues, So it needs to be, if you're going to make a recommendation for someone, I want to be someone that is going to be involved, wants to be involved, and cares.
They got to have credentials like online
It's got
to
to
do
be
some
something
stuff.
like with Luke. Luke's could reference his historical writings about some of our older, historical architecture in the community. It's someone that needs to have a background in the community and wants to see historical architecture preserved in the community.
I'm not questioning what Luke, what I'm questioning about is that it wasn't brought to my attention. I didn't know anything about nobody being resigning from the board. And, we could go out and find somebody, I just didn't know anything about it. It needs to be brought to our attention. Once they resign from
I'll take full responsibility for that. That's on me. I've been spread super thin, just trying to accomplish a couple of different things. But again, with Luke, that was just somebody that approached me. He wants to be involved. He comes to all of our meetings and reports on them. He's been helping me with a couple of different things, and it's a great opportunity for him. Again, we have 2 more positions that have been vacant since I've started. We have opportunities to appoint a couple more people to the board that want to be involved.
And Taylor, one thing I'd say too is, as I've mentioned earlier, with the master plan, with what's going to be going on with the DDA and your economic development position, in the past, these have been things that have had a meeting here, a meeting there, and it's been a little bit low key. Going forward, it's going to be a commitment, and a commitment to where you're going to have to be there for these meetings, because there's going to be a lot of stuff happening and a lot of stuff that's going to have to be taken care of. And I know there are a lot of people that can do it, but I just wanted to add that there's going to be a lot of things that got to be taken care of, and taken care of in a relatively short amount of time because we got to get going on some of these.
I agree, and I will say that for HBC, I've been working with our chairwoman, Ms. Jane Burdette, to revise our HBC bylaws. We're looking to see where we can make changes for, absences. We have a lot of people that just don't respond and don't show up to our meetings, Again, if you don't want to be a working member of this board and involved in this community, then I need this space open for someone who does. So we're making those changes. I have a DDA meeting on Thursday. We're also looking at reviewing our DDA bylaws and seeing if there's areas that we can make changes to those as well that are needed. So I agree. I want both boards to be working boards that are motivated to see Thomaston grow, but grow strategically.
So we hadn't voted on that one yet, but any further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse.
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves.
Yes.
Councilmember Henry.
Yes.
That's all I've got, Mayor, other than some, brief notifications and announcements, so, meeting then? Yeah, so the question, and I'll let, Oasis elaborate more to the level of detail council wants minutes taken, whether they be verbatim, action item, or whatnot, just to give the city clerk some discretion. We really haven't formally talked about it in the past, but I think there was some, requests for inclusions that may have been omitted. So just for clarification for the city clerk, we do live stream all of our meetings, which are available to the general public. We also audio record all of our meetings. So for verbatim instruction, we have 2 different types of media. So the pleasure is yours. It's your record, your body.
I have no problem with the minutes as they have been presented, other than the last meeting, and I asked that it be included, that I want it included. Other than that, I don't have any problems with the minutes, but I did want that bit of information included.
I feel like I've been kind of doing a mix of more like summary meeting minutes versus just strictly action or versus.
I think it's been
verbatim.
sufficient. If there's changes or additions, but I think the format's been good, in my opinion.
Continue.
That's fine.
That help?
Great. Thank you.
That help?
The only other business I have, Mayor, is an executive session. That's 2 personnel matters.
We'll need a motion to go on that. Anybody have any other business before we go into executive session? No. Several people in the public have asked about Halloween. I guess they think the city can just change the date of Halloween and Christmas or whatever. I don't understand. But
Halloween is on Halloween, 31st.
the 31st, which just falls on a Sunday
We will
evening.
be providing traffic control on our street in Silvertown like we do every year on Halloween, 31st.
Just wanted to.
I'm not going to change the
I
holiday.
did. I know people ask all the time. Didn't realize
And
it
to
was-
my knowledge, I did some looking back. I'm not aware that we've ever changed it based on what day it fell on. And the complaint that I heard was, Sunday is a school night. Well, Halloween just a couple of years ago was on Tuesday, it's on weeknights and we do it that night. So we're doing it on the 31st.
School night, you usually don't have to hand out as much candy. That's a good thing. For certain people. All right. If not, do I hear a motion to go into executive session for matter of personnel? Is that right?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse.
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves.
Yes.
Councilmember Henry.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
2.
We have chairs, do we? I appreciate the music, man. Take care.
last night.
Well, that's not good.
All right, Mayor.
All right, we're back in regular session. I hear a recommendation.
If it pleases the council, recommendation will be to amend the agenda to include several items, the first of which would be to modify the job description for the current code enforcement and animal control officers, that be combined into one position and be set at a 14, class grade 14. The other to be to approve and appropriate funds for an executive assistant for the city manager and to approve that job description with a class grade 16, and that those positions be funded via unrestricted fund balance until such time as a budget amendment can be presented to the council in the amount of $30,750 for fiscal year 21.
Before, do we need to see if there's anybody outside? I mean, we had a couple of people in attendance, I just want to make sure that.
So you've heard the recommendation to amend the agenda to present these items. So I
make a motion to amend the agenda, sorry, say that 5 times, to include those items. Sorry.
Okay. So we have a motion, any discussion on that? Call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse.
All right.
Councilmember Middlebrooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves.
Yes.
Councilmember Head.
Yes.
Mayor, staff's recommendation is to create a combined role between code enforcement and animal control. That position be classified as a job grade 14 to unappropriate funds for the currently budgeted animal control position. Alternately, that a job description be created for the city manager's executive assistant, that job grade be 16, to authorize the position and to fund all of the positions mentioned out of unrestricted fund balance until such time as a budget amendment can be presented to the council in the amount of $30,750.
Okay, you've heard that recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
Sir.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
And so Russell, Jennifer, our personnel, right, she helped coordinate all that in descriptions and all that in her recommendation too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So hearing no more, call for a vote.
Councilmember Greathouse.
All right.
Councilmember Middlebrooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Tucker.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves.
Yes.
Councilmember Head.
Yes.
All right, we've got one more item for other business.
Yeah, if you don't mind. I mentioned this to Russell the other day. I had an idea of something I'd kind of like to do, and it would involve all of you. I would like to come to each one of your districts and have like a town hall type meeting with the police department. And what I would like to do is bring myself, some command staff, and a few of our regular patrol officers to come to that meeting, set it up in your district with your constituents. Of course, you would be present, and I'd like for the mayor to come to those meetings. And the meeting agenda would be that we're going to come talk about the department, kind of give the your constituents an overview of the department and the structure of the department, introduce the staff that's there so they know who they are, talk about some of the things that the police department doing, some of the new technology, some of the things we're doing so people understand, and then provide an opportunity for your constituents to ask questions about the police department. However, what I would ask, what I do want to ask from you is I don't want these sessions turning into a bash the police session, and we're not going to answer questions about cases. If they have questions about the operations of the police department or what we do and how we do things, that's more what I want it to stay focused on. If they want to bring up particular cases and ask questions, we'll just refer them to come to the office, because I'm not going to discuss cases in an open forum. I think it's a real positive idea where we could reach out and let people know us and talk about the police department and give people an opportunity to present questions and their concerns, like Ms. Reeves talks about in Dana Street area, that they can come and I can hear firsthand, my officers can hear firsthand those concerns. from the people in those districts. If we do that, I'll be glad to communicate with each one of you individually. What I'm asking is if you find a location within your district and then tell me a time, or we can work together on a time that would be good in a location within your district, and then I will help put the information out so we can get people to come and have some district meetings with each one of you within your districts. I guess, how do you guys feel about that?
That's good.
Good idea.
Very.
Good idea.
Okay. Well then, maybe in the next few weeks, I'll kind of reach out to y'all, or feel free to reach out to me, and we can start talking about times and maybe locations and stuff of how we can do that. All right?
Good idea.
All right. Anything else? If nothing else, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Uh,